You're making it rude now. You're making up your own jokes. There's no point us being here if you're going to do that. I actually will explain later how I came to know that, and you'll feel bad for making it rude in your own heads. I should have just said she was 11 and left it at that. You'd have gone, I wonder how we knew she was 11. I'm sure it's perfectly innocent. I'll explain later. Oh, clearly there was a court case. Right, let's get to the bottom of this. Anyway, this little girl, 11 years old, she's wearing a pink tracksuit. And across the arse of the tracksuit is written the word gorgeous. Now, would you all agree with me that's inappropriate? Yes, at best. Could be described. But the problem is, you can't tell people how to raise their kids, unless they're Austrian, in which case you kind of have to. But by and large... What? You disagree? For the most part, people do not react well to being told how to raise their kids. So I thought, rather than go up to these people and go, you shouldn't dress your child like that, I thought the best thing to do, in order to show how inappropriate it was, would be to go up to them and act like it wasn't inappropriate at all. I thought the best thing to do is just be to go up and go, here, I tell you what, you're not wrong there. Jesus, huh? Yes, indeedy. That's just one gorgeous piece of ass you're wearing, and no mistake. I didn't. I just thought that would be the best thing to do. No, what actually happened was we got sat at the same gate, and the dad recognized me, believe it or not. And so we got talking, and I said, is that your daughter? And he said, yes. And I said, and how old is she? And he said, 11. And I said, and did you buy her that tracksuit? And he goes, no, her mother did. And I went, right. Because it's got gorgeous written on the arse of it. Is that not a bit? It's funny how some questions you don't have to finish. Some questions you can just get halfway through and just sway, and that'll do, you know. Your brother, is he? So it's got gorgeous written on the arse of it. Is that not a bit, you know? And he goes, well, it's the fashion. And I'm like, yeah, but she's a total minger. What are you thinking?
I have a long list of guys from NXT. If you just want to give your comments on Samoa Joe, being around Joe.
Oh, he's awesome. I've known Joe for pretty much as long as I've been wrestling, and he's always been a cool guy.
Finn Balor.
Finn is surprisingly more relaxed about everything than you'd expect. I think he's very much that guy who's at the point where he knows he's done his art. He's here to do his money work, and he's definitely doing it. He's probably, I think he's actually like the highest grossing guy as far as merch goes. He was making 6 figures in developmental because of his merch.
Yeah. What about Ty?
Ty is reliable. He's probably one of the more reliable workers you're going to find. He's very reminiscent of actually I think probably a guy like Rude or Hennig, where you can put him out there with anyone, he's going to give you a quality match.
Jordan and Gable?
Oh, they're great. I absolutely love Chad Gable. He's hilariously talented. I told him his first week in the company, and this is when most people aren't talking to him. I can't remember if I wrestled with him or I saw him in the ring, and I just said, you're going to be in the Hall of Fame someday.
He is amazing.
Oh, he is. Jordan, it's funny how insecure he is, because he's a guy that has he's gorgeous, jacked, jumped to the moon, you know, athletic as the day is long, and he has no reason to envy anyone, but he's shockingly, like, insecure sometimes. Not in a bad way, in an almost endearing way, like, oh, you're nervous. What the fuck are you nervous about?
Enzo and Cass.
Cass is a good dude. He is a solid big man. Enzo is a fucking abortion.
Why do you say that? A lot of people say that.
Well, have you ever heard the saying, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks?
So you guys won't be doing Christmas dinner anytime soon? Or?
Well, I'm Jewish for starters, but...
there you go.
But, no, to give you the full rundown on Enzo, he is... Well, first, I will say to his credit, he absolutely believes his own bullshit. He is 100% confident in himself, to his detriment, and to the detriment of others around him. He's an example of someone who has no excuse to not know wrestling, but he doesn't know wrestling. To give you just a full rundown of just a few of these are the highlights.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it.
Here's some Enzo highlights. We'll start with this one. Enzo is from New Jersey. What's the one thing New Jersey has a vast number of? Wrestling schools. Guess how many days of wrestling training Enzo had before he got signed? 0. And I asked Sean Bennett, who's a referee from this area.
I know Sean.
Yeah, Sean, and I told him that, and he was like, "Yeah, there's actually I know where Enzo's from, and there's a school 15 minutes from his town."
Mike Morgan School, maybe.
Yeah. So it's like there's schools out there. So this is thing one to me because I'm very big on I'm passionate about wrestling. I'm passionate about the art of wrestling and guys who love it. Like Chad Gable, a lot of people don't know he trained with Eric Cannon up in Minnesota before he got signed. And he wasn't doing that for any reason other than he loved pro wrestling. He got into amateur wrestling because he loved pro wrestling. So that's the first thing to me.
You remind me of Punk, by the way.
Oh.
Does anybody else ever tell you that? Just the way you're...
No, but now I feel a little
it's
salted.
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. Go ahead.
I wish I could remind you of his bank account, but unfortunately I can't. That actually threw me off terribly.
Sorry about that.
I'll tell you why in a minute. But so that's a big thing to me. Is like people who have the opportunity to learn and don't is really weird to me. Secondly, like I said, I'm not very big on gimmicks, and he's a walking gimmick. So that kind of bugs me on top of that. He's kind of a scummy guy. A lot of his, we all have our down moments, like our less than. Every one of us could probably write out a handful of things we're generally not proud of we've done. But he's one of those guys that not only would he write down those things with pride, he'd make up other ones. But just to give you a level of his understanding of wrestling, you were interviewing Manny Fernandez earlier, correct?
Yes.
Okay. One of the guys who's an unsung hero of Pro Wrestling Iron is a guy named Frank Murdoch. He also worked under the name Frank Dalton. He used to do WCWB shows with Manny. Now, one day, we were sitting in the one of the conference rooms watching videotape, bullshitting with Bill. So it's like me, English, Sasha, Bailey, Enzo, Cassidy. It's a bunch of his class, basically, Bill's class. We're in there, and we're just telling different funny wrestling stories. And the story I had was that many years ago, when they were doing the WCWB shows, Manny and Frank had homesteaded this one random town. Manny had convinced this Mark car dealer to sell Frank a car. So he writes up a loan. He does all this shit under the name Frank Murdoch. The problem is Frank Murdoch doesn't exist. His name is Kelly New. But this guy's, he does it without ID. He does also because he's such a mark for Manny, and so he gives them a car. So one day, Manny disappears with the car, and Frank's like, well, my name ain't on it. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
So I tell this story. Enzo, who claims to be the hugest Dusty Rhodes fan in the world, Dusty's my mentor, all this stuff. Oh man, I can't believe Kalisto would do that. You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone just does the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez, Dusty's tag partner, the guy you supposedly is your mentor. Oh, because Kalisto's name is Manny Rodriguez. And Enzo's the type of guy that would try to play that off like it was a joke and he knew.
Right.
But he legitimately knew nothing about wrestling. He seems like that guy who started watching wrestling in 1998 and has never seen anything other than Raw.
Yeah.
So there'd be things like that. There'd be things like he'd want to do shit in matches that were just completely stupid. At one point I remember actually throwing up my hands and saying, I am a 30-year-old man. I've been doing this for 12 years. I'm too fucking old to be arguing with you about what we're going to do in a fake fight. We had one where it was even where I would try to work with him, where it'd be like, okay, we're going to do this spot, whatever. Low bridge me, I'll go out. And I was like, I'm going to try and land on the apron. If I do, come to me. I'm going to give you the hangman. If I miss the apron for any reason, just so you know, because I knew he wasn't very good. If I land on the floor, come after me. I'll grab your feet, trip you, and I'll just spin you around and start glomming you. Which is it going to be? Like, I don't know. I'm going to try and land on the apron. I'm telling you I might miss. There's a possibility of that. I've missed the apron before going out. I'm trying to warn you of this so you know if that happens what to do. Well, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? I'm like, I finally gave up. I was like, I'll go to the floor and I'll trip you, okay? Oh, okay. So it's shit like that where you're like, do you not know how to wrestle? He broke his own leg trying to counter a wrist lock.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, when he was in the wheelchair on NXT TV, that's how it happened. He broke his own leg trying to counter a wrist lock. He blamed it on the canvas being loose. Which, okay, let's say the canvas is loose. I've wrestled on loose canvases before. You know how many ankles are broken? 0. So there was that. Then he actually, remember after he'd been called up, he tried to blame Manny for that happening. He was in the ring with Kalisto. When he did it, he tried to blame Kalisto for it, and Kalisto called him out on it right away. He's like, motherfucker, you broke that thing. You broke your ankle because you don't know how to wrestle. Like,
right.
That's why it happened.
Well, how did he get to the main roster and just off his charisma? Or?
Well, if you believe his story, which is not true, Enzo has a bad habit of editing himself in the wrong ways. Like he'll re-edit stories. He won't tell you the details. I'll give you a quick rundown just so you understand this before I tell it. He bragged about one time they were downtown. They were in Tampa. They were out partying, whatever. Some girls ride by, and he yells, "Show me your boobs!" And the girls went, "Show me your dick!" And he went, "Show me your bedroom!" And they went back and he fucked these two girls and this whole thing. He leaves out the fact these two girls were, first of all, about 300 pounds apiece. So when he's telling the story to people, he tells them, oh yeah, he tells them all the stuff he did, doing all this stuff. He leaves out the fact they're both about 300 pounds and that apparently they lived in the same building Enzo did. And when he was telling one of his friends about it, I think he was telling Cass about it in their apartment, fucking the maintenance guys were there like, "Oh, you fucked the girls in this apartment? Oh, they're gross, man. Their place smells like shit."
Right.
So they're ribbing him about it, but when he tells the story, it's that. So here's what happened. Triple H's training is going to a trainer, a guy named Joe DeFranco up in New Jersey. Enzo is a disciple of the DeFranco gym. He actually has the DeFranco gym logo tattooed on his thigh. He finds out that Joe's training Triple H. So he puts together this promo video where it's like, yeah, it shows him rapping, and it shows him doing MMA, and it shows him boxing and all the stuff he's done. And he's like, I closed it out with, you could put me in Yankee Stadium and I'll still be the realest guy in the room. And he convinces Joe to show this video to Triple H. Triple H's like, okay, this kid's got some charisma. Let's put him in the fucking ring and see what he can do. They give him a try out. Now, the way Enzo tells the story now is that Triple H found the video online. Because that makes it sound Dusty Rhodes.
Right.
Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And once again, it's like he claims to have done MMA. He can't put a hold on to save his life. He claims to have boxed. He throws punches like an epileptic. Like it's that sort of thing where he makes all these claims, but he can't back any of them up. He claims to be a rapper, but he's one of those guys who has to write everything out. He'll brag about, I've got 50 notebooks full of promos, and my reaction is, you have to write down promos.